Up until now we've been using Sublime Text 2 to write our code, then view it by refreshing the browser. But the more you work with HTML and CSS layout, this process can be very time consuming, and to aid in rapid application development, it will be much better to see your code update in real time. And a text editor that does an excellent job of this is called Espresso, which can be found on macrabbit.com. But as you can see, it costs $75. So if you don't have $75 to spend and all you're interested in is the live updates, I'm now going to show you how to build your own using jQuery. So first we create a basic doc5 structure and place a meta charset UTF-8 in the head and create a div with the ID of container in the body. With a closing comment to see where this div ends. And inside our container div we're going to create another div which will give the ID of box. And inside this box we're going to create two text areas. The first will have a class of innerbox and HTML, which we'll create in a moment, and we're going to put the placeholder of enter HTML here. We'll copy and paste the text area and just replace HTML with CSS. And now we need to create another div which is going to be our iframe holder. And assign that the class of innerbox and preview. We don't need a source for the iframe, but we'll give it an ID of live update. And inside the iframe we need to place another doc5 HTML structure. And we're not going to place any content in here. This is the area that's going to be populated dynamically. So for this project I'm not going to link to an external CSS style sheet. I'm just going to enter some CSS between the style tags in our head section. So the class of innerbox will float left, give a width of 48%, a border of 1 pixel solid grey, a padding of 10 pixels and a maximum height of 250 pixels. For the preview class we'll assign a width of 98%, a border of 1 pixel solid grey, and set a minimum height of 400 pixels. And lastly for our iframe we'll set a width of 100%, change the border to 0.5 pixels in red, with a minimum height of 400 pixels. So now we'll click on live view.php, and we can see our structure here except the iframe's missing, so let's check that. And the error is I assigned the innerbox and preview classes to an ID, so we'll change that to class, refresh, and then we can see the outline of our iframe. So next we're going to go to Google's CDN and get the latest copy of jQuery. Copy and paste that script tag into our file, and then we can start work on our JavaScript. So we'll use this shortcut for the document.ready function. and we'll create a function named fetch HTML, and we'll declare a variable HTML and set that equal to the value in the HTML class, and return HTML. We want to do the same for CSS, so we'll change that to fetch CSS and change the variable class and return. Next we need to target our class of innerbox, and we're going to use the onKeyUp function. Create a variable named target and assign to that the ID live update, for which we want 0 index, .content window .document, and we use the target.open function and the target.close function. We'll now create 2 more variables and assign our fetch HTML function to the variable HTML, and likewise with the fetch CSS function to the variable CSS. And then we need to add the target variable to our body, and append our HTML variable. And in the head we place the target, which will append the CSS that we fetch from our fetch CSS function. So now we go back to our browser and refresh, and we'll create a label for first name, and you can see that updating live. Now we'll create an input tag and give that ID of first name, and we'll create a submit button. So another input tag and change the ID for type of submit, and you can see that's changed instantly. And in the CSS box we'll target label and set the color to red and display block. Once you've achieved your desired layout, simply copy and paste into your CSS file and your HTML file, and that's it. So even after typing just a few lines of code, you can clearly see the benefit of having a live updated editor. And if you don't want to spend $75 on Espresso, simply create your own.